Richard paced the room, smoking his Lucky Strike cigarette. He would have to be firm with her this time. After all, how many times does a man have to ask? "Grace!" he bellowed to call her into the room. Grace came from the direction of the kitchen with her apron on, since she was preparing dinner. "Yes?" she asked impatiently. She was working on a pot roast. All these years, and he still didn't know better than to interrupt her while she was cooking. "The television is on again," he said, motioning to the television. "And?" she asked. "How many times do I need to ask you to turn it off?" he said. "Electricity costs money, you know. Your job is to cook and take care of this house. I work damn hard to bring home the money, and I think I have a right to object to the willful waste of it." Grace sighed, pursed her lips, and squinted at him. He knew this meant she was angry, but he didn't care. "Have you nothing to say for yourself?" Richard asked, looking around for a place to butt out his cigarette. "And where the hell are all my ashtrays?" "Richard, darling," Grace sneered sarcastically at his condescending tone, "I didn't turn on the television. I don't even watch this television since you got rid of the television I liked. And I don't care a flying fig about where your ashtrays are. Just don't get ashes on my carpet again." "Which carpet?" Richard asked. "The red carpet I liked has been gone for a while. I've been meaning to ask you about that expenditure as well. You sure blow through money you don't earn." "I didn't get rid of the carpet. Honestly, you try to blame me for everything," Grace said as she realized the carpet was indeed gone, replaced by a new wood floor, which made her angry. She'd chosen that shag carpet herself. She turned her anger back to him. "If you are going to keep making drastic changes, you could at least ask for my input. Apparently, I'm not worth as much as you, but after decades of marriage, I think I earned the right to have an opinion." "That's just like you, denying everything," he fumed. "I bet you squirrel away money into a secret bank account like all you housewives." "You'd better watch yourself," Grace said, holding aloft the knife she'd been chopping with. "I've got a mind to." "To what?" he challenged her. "Go back to your mother." The sight of him made her sick. Why had she ever agreed to marry him? Now she was stuck with him forever, and forever was a bloody long time. "Well, I can't go back to my mother's house, can I? You got rid of the television. The television she bought us for a wedding present, no less. And look at this," Grace motioned at the wall. "You replaced it with this monstrosity. She saved up to buy that, you know. Not that you care." "Always about whether I care. I'm so sick of these conversations." "Besides, I like the old one," she continued, ignoring him. "It had a beautiful solid oak casing and was an impressive piece of furniture. I laid my grandmother's doilies on top with a crystal vase on top of that. And you got rid of it all. How could you? How dare you? Listen, dear," he said as he approached her menacingly. "I will get rid of whatever I want to in the home I own and pay for. But for the last time, I didn't get rid of the old television. I know it was you, so you could stop playing games with me." Her chest visibly heaved with rage. He thought about how he'd like to finally make her pay for her insolence. And she thought about how comforting it would feel to cash in his life insurance. She did have a knife in her hand. Just then, two children wearing headsets ran into the room carrying video game controllers, and they plunked down in front of the television on a large ottoman. They were going on about the game they were playing on the large flat-screen television in front of them. Richard and Grace looked at each other in shock. They had no children. They'd never been able to conceive. "Who the hell are these people?" Richard asked. Grace just shook her head as if she were trying to unravel a mystery. He and Grace exchanged a look with each other as a slow realization overtook them. Grace turned towards the kitchen, which was not her kitchen anymore. Richard looked about the room at the home he'd paid for, but the home he no longer owned. Anger and resentment overtook them. Grace balled up her apron in her left fist, still holding the knife in her right hand. Richard was seething. Richard moved forward and kicked the ottoman the kids were sitting on and startled the young gamers. He wanted them out and made sure they knew he was mad. Grace nodded and smiled at Richard, signaling her approval of his actions, despite the fact the children were now terrified. "What the heck?" screamed Tyson as he removed his headset. The boys jumped to their feet and instinctively grabbed onto one another with fear on their faces because they knew there was something in the room, something they could not see. Odd happenings had been taking place since they moved into their new house, but this one was different. Things had moved about the house, sure. Doors had opened and closed, obviously. But now, whatever was in their house had just pushed them, and the boys had a sudden fear that it could hurt them. "Mom!" yelled Ryan as they ran from the room. Richard and Grace exchanged a look of understanding. They kept forgetting about them. It had been years, but they were still adjusting. The new television and laminate flooring were obviously from the other inhabitants of their home. "They must have made some changes," Richard said softly. "Yes, I keep forgetting," Grace said. "That's unacceptable," Richard said with finality. "This is our house, and it's not right we don't have a say anymore. Someone is going to have to pay for this." Grace looked in the direction of where the children ran and turned back to Richard. She saw the anger on his face and could feel the darkness. But this time, it wasn't towards her. And this time, she agreed. "Yes, Richard. They need to know it's our house," agreed Grace. Richard nodded as he headed towards the boys. After all, Grace adored that television, and what man wouldn't defend his wife?